is Adam Anderson. Benjamin is actually chilling in inner world right now, so I am out as Adam Anderson. And so today I want to talk to you about the saddest part of having DID. The saddest part of having DID is actually the switching itself. Yes, that's correct. The switching itself, in my opinion, is the saddest part about having DID. Of course, the trauma is definitely one of the most saddest parts. That's why you have DID in the first place, obviously. That will be the number one. But then the number two I want to talk to you about is actually the switching. Because the switching in DID tends to be glamorized, and it tends to have a lot of videos on it about switching on camera. And there's a lot of, I guess, fanfare goes into the aspect of switching. But the reality is that switching itself is extremely sad. The reason why a person switch when they have DID or dissociative identity disorder is because they can't handle reality. I won't say it again. When a person who has DID, when they switch, they do that because they can't handle reality. Their brain basically creates these switches in order to deal with reality, in order to deal with trauma, in order to deal with stress, in order to deal with life in general. The brain has learned how to make a mechanism where you just go bye-bye. It's the flight response of leaving the situation. And so, yes, switching itself is a very sad part of DID because you don't want to be around because of the situation, or you don't want to be around because of what's going on. And so the best way to get yourself out of that situation of being around when things are tough or whatever is to leave. And sometimes when you switch, when you have DID, you don't even know why you switched. You can be chilling at a bus stop or in your car somewhere, and it can be a sound, it can be something you see, it can be someone you do see that reminds you of a person that may have hurt you, or it may even be something that's not even that obvious to you. But the brain itself is in a panic state of mind, you can say. And so since the brain is in this panic state always, it's always in a constant state of vigilance, of always watching out what's going to happen, the brain will say, guess what? There may be something scary here. So what I'm going to do is I want to switch. And so therefore you switch into a different personality that will able to help you and able to cope with that situation, because the person that's up front at that point cannot handle the situation. And so the brain thinks it's an appropriate thing to switch. And so, yes, it's really sad because you couldn't handle that situation. The brain thinks this may be too much for you to handle, or whoever that person is fronting, that the brain will say, no, what, this is too much for us right now. We're going to switch. We're going to switch the channel. We're going to switch the frequency. And so that's what happens. And so, yeah, switching is not the most glorious thing. Actually, I really don't like switching. If there can be like one personality that stays up front the most, that'll be great. That'd be awesome. But switching to me doesn't feel good at all because, you know, I feel lightheaded. I feel like I'm about to leave my body. So most of the time, I feel like I'm completely disconnected to my body. It's like an out-of-body experience. At least that's what we experience. And after that, I get these headaches of when after the switch happens, almost like a migraine or something. Like, it sucks. And so it feels like my brain's in like scrambled. And sometimes in the middle of, and sometimes even after switching, I can get almost like identity confusion after the switch. Sometimes if we don't know who's going to come up front that time, or sometimes I can get it before the switch. It all depends. The brain is always mixing it up. So I will say, well, it's going to be like this, and then it changes and it's something else. But yeah, like I like to get to my point here is that basically switching itself is a very sad state of affairs if you have dissociative identity disorder, because you don't switch unless your brain thinks there's danger. And so, that's just the truth of living with DID. It's a very hard life to live your life like this. And it's hard to tell people that you have multiple people living inside your brain. Most people don't understand it. And so it's not as glorious as Hollywood and people and even social media make it out to be. Actually, living with DID is tough. And yes, the number one thing that does suck is that it cause a trauma. That's the reason why you have DID. And so, yes, trauma will be number one reason why DID sucks. And number two will be the switching. And then you can go from there, PTSD, depression, thoughts, and all kinds of things. And loss of time, loss of memory. Forget memory. My memory is shot. Like, when you have dead, like, your memory, you just gotta get an app. Let's put it this way: if you have dead, it's good to get an app that can remind you of stuff. And so anyway, this is Adam Anderson signing off, and hopefully Benjamin will come back if he wants to. I'll check y'all later. Bye-bye.